Hello all and welcome, and I am the mgtowphilosopher, and in this video I would like to talk about how feminists in all actuality think men are better than women. Now you may think this is contradictory to what the supposed message of feminism is, that being equality. However, anyone who's looked beyond the dogmatic surface teachings of feminism will see that it's all about superiority, and that to achieve that, women have chosen to adopt masculinity to do so. Now, some of you feminists might say, but mgtowphilosopher, it's called feminism, not masculinism. Why would you say it's about masculinity and it being better when the movement is called feminism? Well, first of all, people mistake the word feminism to be what the ideology and movement of feminism is all about. No. The word feminism simply represents the fact that it's all about women gaining superiority. That's right. If feminism was really about equality, it wouldn't be called feminism. It'd be called something neutral like equalism or something else of that nature. That right there tells you all you need to know. It's all about superiority for women over men. Hence the word feminism. However, the movement itself is in no way about feminine traits to advance women and their causes. Oh no. For anyone who's studied the contradictory garbage that is feminism, they'll see that so-called feminism is actually all about man envy, which leads to man hate, which leads to the adoption of man's own traits to defeat man, thus becoming man. And by the way, I can think of no higher form of praise than the praise that such mimicry infers. That's right. Feminism is nothing more than glorified penis envy, a term which means little these days, as most people don't look deeply enough to understand the full ramifications of what the term actually means, because it doesn't stop with envy. Like any good socialist loser, the person suffering from such envy feel that they've been wronged in some way. The other party has in some way oppressed them so as to take the success that should be theirs. This justifies them in turn stealing back the success from the evil person who took it from them in the first place. And it also justifies them in taking the place of the so-called oppressor, because that person or group or whatever that has somehow oppressed them, well, they're evil, and they've shown that they don't deserve such power and privilege in the first place. Now, their envy manifests itself in the form of adopting male traits to achieve dominance over the very men who, through use of such traits, have built the world. Achievements that women see, envy, and want to emulate. Achievements which feminism teaches are linked to traits that are nothing more than social constructs. Achievements that you too can possess via social engineering, while at the same time teaching men to be inferior as you believe they have taught you to be inferior for the purpose of oppressing you. Because we all know that men since caveman times have been such sophisticated manipulators of human psyches. When someone says a woman has penis envy, it does not mean that she literally wants a penis. Now, in some rare cases, that might actually be the case. No, generally speaking, penis envy is the state in which most feminists exist and will deny until their dying day. A state of envy in which they both admire and loathe masculine traits. Loathe them in men, but cheer them on when they appear in women. Hence the term toxic masculinity. Oddly enough, it's only toxic when it appears in men. When it appears in women, the feminists cheer with abandon. She's so strong, so brave, so capable. Look at what she can do. She's as good as any man, better even. But why are these traits okay in women, but not men? I thought men and women were the same, and that these traits were socially engineered after all. If that's the case, wouldn't they be equally acceptable in both men and women? And Gloria Steinem, the queen of feminism herself, said that parents should raise their girls the same way they raise their boys. Not like girls, but like boys. Wait, what? But if women are better and masculinity is toxic, then why would you want to raise girls like boys? I mean, heck, if masculinity is evil and toxic, why would you want to infect women with it in the first place? And how can it be toxic if it's okay for women to be more masculine, but not okay for men? Is it only toxic for men because they have too much masculinity to begin with? But wait, how can that be if both men and women are essentially the same, minus these socially engineered traits? Because the truth is that feminists, meaning cultural Marxists and the global elites and their so-called intellectual flunkies, know full well that masculinity built the world and empowers men to rule it. They also know that feminine traits do not. That being the case, if you want to empower and put into power those who are easily manipulated, meaning the useful idiots, you instill them with the very traits that will lead to success in this area, all the while labeling male and female traits as nothing more than social constructs. In this way, you can use relativism and the negative philosophy that the Frankfurt School is so well known for and turn everything on its head. Yes, reality is relative. Words have no meaning, except when they do, which is when they say what we want them to say, and everything else is open to interpretation. Okay, gotcha. Yes, black is white, up is down. Male and female traits are nothing more than societal constructs and stereotypical in nature. That being the case, such traits are interchangeable between men and women, except, of course, we don't want men having masculine traits, because in them, they're toxic, even though men and women are supposedly equal, meaning the same. Okay. With a concentrated propaganda campaign funded by the U.S. government through the CIA, the message that gender roles were and are nothing more than social constructs was spread throughout the country via media and education. Now, several generations later, such nonsense has been accepted as fact. Yes, men only act the way men do because of social engineering. It's just how they were taught to be. Funny how with the seeming majority of kids being raised by single mothers or with fathers in the picture who are feminized, and after several generations of this indoctrination, that men are still showing signs of this so-called toxic masculinity, which is supposedly a social construct, a masculinity that feminists themselves adopt and then label as female empowerment. One wonders how men could still be suffering from masculinity if it's all just a social construct. Regardless, this propaganda effort was enacted with the dual purpose of foisting inferior female traits onto men so as to feminize them, while at the same time foisting masculine traits onto women so as to masculinize them. That's right. The same queen of feminism, Gloria Steinem, who said that we need to raise our girls more like boys, also said that we need to raise our boys more like girls. Yes, such a statement is quite telling, isn't it? Now, if you're a feminist, you may say, but mgtowphilosopher, that's just feminists showing their want for equality. They see that men are too much one way and women are too much another. There's no balance. Men are too manly, while women are too girly. Feminists just want to make men and women more equal. Of course, what a person making such a statement missed in the first place is that what he or she is trying to do is no different from the social engineering that he or she claims made men and women unequal in the first place. That being the case, what makes your average feminist think that they would be any better at social engineering than these nebulous, unknown Stone Age geniuses who cooked everyone up to be such engineered robots without free will of any kind in the first place? Also, why is equality seen as some kind of good thing? All it means is two things are the same or not the same. Can anyone tell me why it's so important that we equalize men and women? Now, of course, a feminist might reply to this by saying something like, men took over the world and wrongly took away women's place in it by placing them into an inferior position and foisted upon her all the traits that favored the doing of tasks that men didn't want to do. Yes, such enviable tasks as cleaning sewers, working on scaffolds, fighting and dying in wars to the point where in the ancient world it was 2/3 women and 1/3 men in regards to population makeup. Then you had the plowing of the fields, endless hours of hunting, yada, 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 etc., etc., etc. Yeah, men sure picked the best traits for themselves and gave you, the poor women, the less enviable leftover traits. Traits which, by the way, were better suited to you women for some unknown reason. No, such roles couldn't have been based on inherent traits. It was all social engineering, right? Yeah, those ancient humans were such sophisticated beings, weren't they? They assigned the gender roles to men and women that just so happened to fit them the best. But women could just as easily have been assigned men's roles, and humankind would have done just as well. Right? Because men and women are equal, don't you know? And both can do whatever the other can do equally well. Yeah, right. By the way, how are those professional women's sports teams doing? Oh, they're getting beaten by 14-year-old boys? You don't say? The simple truth of the matter is that ancient humans had no such sophistication, and there's no reason for people of the past, pre-feminism, to favor men for certain tasks and women for others by simple randomness of choice. I mean, both men and women would have to have demonstrated key differences in the first place. Differences that came to be known as traits that men and women possessed by virtue of being men and women. Why else would ancient man and ancient women find themselves in their individual gender roles to begin with? I mean, people weren't simply saying, okay, let's just flip a coin to see who does the hunting. Oh, it's heads. Sorry, ladies, you lose. You're stuck with washing the dishes and feeding the babies. Utter nonsense, of course. Ancient village elders or tribal leaders had no need to flip coins or roll the bones to see who would do what. There were and are differences between men and women that are readily obvious and that inform people as to which roles best suited each gender. Die-hard feminists know this, and this is what makes them so angry. They see men as having gotten the better end of the stick, whilst they got the short end, which in this case is no stick at all. Hence the penis envy. Anyhow, all jokes aside, this is why masculine is seen as better and enviable by feminists. So, as feminists, they simply said, hey, why not adopt male traits and tell everyone we women can do whatever men can do because such traits don't come from anywhere natural in the first place and were simply made up by society. So, instead of going along with nature, they try to change it, subvert it by using real social engineering and saying that the way things evolved is a lie. That's all just a social construct. But we feminists, we have the truth. The truth is that men were and are in the gender roles they're in because they were and are the best for those roles, generally speaking. You see, natural selection chooses those traits that best suit the environment within which a being is living and interacting with. If women were better at hunting and gathering and providing, then she would have been doing those things from the first. It would have been her, not him, doing all the things that men have traditionally done throughout human history, whilst he would have been back in the cave taking care of the kids and doing the other necessary chores. But those were not the skills that nature selected for him. Nature selected certain traits for him and certain traits for her. Traits which gave us, as human beings, the maximum probability for survival. Funny how natural selection applies to every other animal but humans, if one goes by feminist rationale. Yes, I'm sure the male and female lions' roles are completely contrived. And it's this reality of natural selection that feminists really hate. They hate that men had skills that seemingly allowed them to dominate. Notice I said seemingly, because the truth is that women have always had equal power to men. Essentially, they've always been the power behind the throne, the voice whispering in the king's ear. And lest you forget, men were out there working themselves to death for the so-called oppressed woman and her children. Everything he was doing was to protect and provide for her. To think that she had anything less than equal power in most cases is to admit you know nothing about how women are in reality, meaning that you've never lived with one. In truth, she wielded tremendous power, and nowadays she wields overwhelming power. Power she believes that men once had. Yes, power that was granted to us by the evil but oh so delicious masculinity that's so toxic for us men. A toxicity that they embrace and feed to their daughters as early as possible, but not to their sons. Oh no, because men are evil. They're more evil than women and are prone to misuse such traits as masculinity. And yet men and women are supposed to be the same and equal minus these traits. Wait, say what? So what feminists are saying is this: raise your daughters to be more like your sons, and raise your sons to be more like your daughters. socially engineer women to be more like men and socially engineer men to be more like women. Words have power. So the left, meaning feminists, like to change the meanings of words until you can't see the truth of things. Then they label masculinity as toxic and command men to do away with it. At the same time, they declare female empowerment. Do you see where this is going? No, I won't be consigned to a house to breastfeed a baby and vacuum floors and wash some man's clothes. Oh no, I want more. I want more than to be a baby machine and a cooker of food. I deserve better than this. I want what he has. Yes, the grass is always greener on the other side, isn't it? Sadly, what she fails to realize is that he was no more free than her, and that nature had consigned him to his role as well. No patriarchy at work there, unless the patriarchy is none other than Mother Nature, in which case you'd have to very rightly call it Father Nature. Oh no, but we can't do that. That would be sexist. Regardless, women do indeed resent their natural roles in life, and they blame men, as usual, for those roles, and some non-existent patriarchy for putting them in those roles. Yes, men have the supposed enviable roles. Oh, and by the way, you don't envy that which is inferior. And now here we are, in the 21st century, with a workforce that is more women than men, and women have never been more unhappy than they are today. Yet they don't seem to know why. Of course it's men's fault, somehow. Women have had penis envy from the very start. It's only now, in our decadent and safe world, that they can safely act out their envy in the form of hate and very real oppression against men. I say act out because it's just that, play acting, pretending. It'll last about as long as the government has other people's money to give women so as to ensure their votes. Once that gravy train dries up, the fantasy of female empowerment and them being equal to men will come to an end. Women know deep down that men are superior. They shout it for all the world to hear by their mimicry. They dress more and more like men as time passes. They act more like men. They've become whores, believing that men sleep with many women because of some special privilege. So why can't they do the same as a man? They cast aside their female gender roles in favor of male ones, and the list just goes on and on and on. And all of this adopting of male traits, it's of course okay, because there's no such thing as male and female behavior, right? It's all subjective, don't you know? So everything is permissible, except for men acting masculine, of course, because that's toxic. Only women can act that way. Then it's fine. It's good for women, but bad for men. Don't ever believe for 1 second that women hate masculinity. They love it. Love it. They just rename it when they use it for their own purposes. It's bad for men simply because masculine traits allow men to compete with women, and women don't want that competition. All this BS about toxic masculinity is nothing more than brainwashing to make men less manly and more afraid to engage in actions that could make them a threat to female dominance. Does any of this sound like the actions of someone who values femininity over masculinity in regards to women? Or does it sound like someone who has very rightly concluded that the masculine is superior? I'll let you come to your own conclusions on that one. Anyhow, please like, subscribe, and donate to my Patreon. As little as $1 a month will help me to make more of this original content for you. You'll find a link in the description of this video and in the last 20 seconds. I am the MGTOW philosopher, and I wish you a good day. Take care.